welcome to Morning Market Call. My name is Jeff Butler, and today I have Matt Baker, first year MBA student at the Marriott School of Management with me. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Today we want to talk about technology, and specifically how technology has affected the business world and finance specifically. So Matt, frame this for us as MBA students here in the Marriott School. Why is it important for us to learn and understand about technology?
Well, Jeff, I think, and specifically for finance students will be going out into industry and they'll be working a lot with data. They'll have to retrieve data and then analyze data. In school here, we're learning really well how to analyze data, but I think one key component that will be difficult for students will be actually figuring out how to get the data that they need. They'll have to use, most likely, they'll be working through some general ledger systems, maybe some databases, and they'll need some programming logic, maybe some understanding of databases in order to get the data that they're looking for in order to make proper recommendations.
Right. So what do you see maybe as the biggest challenges going out into the workforce and dealing with the variety of enterprise systems that house this type of data?
Well, from my view, I think two things. One, there's some great variety in the different systems that students might be using, and so students will need to be able to be flexible and adapt with the different types of systems. And second, like I said, we can analyze data well, but the difficulty is going to be getting the data that they actually need to be able to analyze. And so some good understanding of some programming logic and understanding databases will really help students and take them far in their careers.
Awesome. So you talked about the importance of going into your career with some of that understanding. How then are they going to be able to translate some of what they learned into what they're doing in their full-time jobs?
Yeah, well, maybe this could be best illustrated through an experience. A couple weeks ago, I was listening to a lecture by a director of corporate finance. He'd worked for a major automobile manufacturing company, and he talked about in his career how he had been given a lot of different assignments, and I had the opportunity to ask him how a student could move down the learning curve faster.
Right.
And one of the recommendations that he made that was most interesting to me was students could have a good understanding of IT and bring their past IT experience into their new position. And what that told me is that it's going to be very difficult for students when they get into new positions to learn the technology. So anything that they can do to understand technology will help them as they move to different positions.
Okay, so as we're learning here, what can we anticipate as far as what current trends are going on in the finance industry, so that we can be better prepared to meet them going out into the job market?
Yeah, that's a really good question. My background is mostly in banking, and I've worked with finance companies on the IT side. And one thing that's personally surprised me is the reliance on mainframe computers, and there are a couple of repercussions for students. One, mainframe computers can often have more of a DOS-looking interface, and so students may get out into industry and be shocked by the systems that they're working with. But I think it's just good to recognize that.
Right.
But second, just recognizing that the mainframes are actually a sort of cloud computing. I think back in the day, we relied heavily on mainframes, and we got into more of the personal computer realm. Now we're completing the cycle by going back into mainframes, and so I think students will be able to notice that trend. Mainframes are good just because they manage risk really well. They can manage a lot of different platforms, plus you can integrate really well with other service providers.
Right. So from your experience, what role has technology typically played in finance, and maybe even look into the future? How important do you think that will be to people that are working in finance?
I think technology will play a very important role. in my experience, I participated in the accounting conversion of a mid-sized finance company, and we went out and trained the CFO and the controller on how to use our system, and they loved our system just because of its reporting capabilities. Their old system, they hadn't been able to drill down and assess profitability quite as well as they would have liked. But with our system, they were able to drill down to specific financial products. They could discontinue the ones that weren't profitable and push the products that were more profitable. And in the end, about a year after the conversion, which of course they had to invest quite a bit of cost and time into that conversion, but within about a year they reported to us that just because of the reporting capability of this new technology, they'd already recouped all of their fixed changing costs over to our technology.
Wow.
And so I think effective utilization of technology can really help the profitability of a company.
Awesome. So real quickly, what are a few recommendations for different types of technology that you recommend students learn before they get out of school?
Good question. I'd suggest two things. First, a basic understanding of programming logic, just basic if-then statements, Boolean logic, and other sorts of basics in programming logic. And the reason for that is because of the reporting system. You're going to need to use that logic probably to get some of the data that you need.
Right.
And lastly, understanding structures of databases. Once you get data, it may come out in a form that you may not recognize, and that's because of its structure in the database. And so understanding the underlying structure of the data can help a student understand the data so that they can then make appropriate recommendations.
Wow, awesome. So we got cloud computing, we got mainframes, Boolean logic, definitely a lot to swallow, but thank goodness we have Dr. Dean and management technology. So we're going to be covered for sure. Thank you so much, Matt, for coming on the show today.
It was my pleasure.
We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you again next time on Morning Market Call.
Morning Market Call is brought to you by the Marriott School of Management in cooperation with the Brigham Young University Department of Communications. MMC is made possible by generous donations from Larry Tasjan and Gary Williams. This show was produced by Jeff Butler, David Wood, and Doug Mumford, with line producing by Beth Grimmett. For more information, please follow us on Twitter and Facebook.